Seeing how much love my video about the wormhole theory got, I decided to make a video in which I predict what would happen in the finale episode of Stranger Things. So, in today's video, I will give you my best shot at explaining my thought process about why I think certain things would happen in the finale and why they would make sense. I will also try to explain the timeline and the course of actions that would lead to those events. But I am sure I will get most of this wrong because, let's face it, it's the final episode. We need to have a plot twist that we would never expect. I just hope that the main things will happen and that I will be right at least 60% of the time in this video. I cannot wait to see the finale and then come back to this video to see how it turned out. The problem with speculating about the last episode is that it is kind of impossible to correctly guess the course of action. It's one thing to guess the main theory behind the show because you have tons of information to work with, but it's very hard to predict the finale because this is the part we get the fewest clues for. As I said in my previous videos, I don't really understand where all the hate for Volume 2 is coming from because we got answers to a lot of questions. Because of this, I truly believe that the Duffer Brothers could wrap everything up in just 2 hours. The only big plots that are still unresolved are saving the kids and stopping the merge between the Abyss and the Right Side Up, Henry's real backstory, the Mind Flayer being the real villain, and destroying the Upside Down. As you can see, those 3 plot lines would be solved simultaneously. The other remaining plot is Kali and the military. As you can see, 2 hours is more than enough to tie everything together. Volume 2 ended with the crew infiltrating the Upside Down, and from there they would split into 2 teams. Hopper, Eleven, and Kali would go to the lab in order to put Elle in the sensory deprivation tank, giving her the best chance to infiltrate Vecna's mind. Kali would be there to support Eleven inside Henry's mind. Meanwhile, the others would go to the radio tower and infiltrate the Abyss from there. Max would stay in the Right Side Up at the towers. The plan is pretty simple. Go into the Abyss from the top of the radio tower antenna, find where Vecna is holding the kids, and once they do, have Eleven infiltrate Vecna's mind and keep him occupied while they save the kids. Then, return from the Abyss into the Upside Down, have Hopper plant the bomb near the exotic matter, and have everyone return to the Right Side Up before the bomb explodes. I mean, what can go wrong, right? I've been thinking about this over and over, but I can't seem to come up with a crazy plot twist, and I must be honest, I don't really know what will happen. I think they would successfully arrive in the Abyss, and while wandering there, they would see the place where Vecna is holding the children. While heading there, they would see Demogorgons coming after them, but Will would be enough to stop them. Sensing Will in the hive mind and seeing them through the Demogorgon's eyes, Vecna would temporarily leave his mindscape and go after them in the Abyss. This would temporarily stop the transition between the 2 worlds. The children would be confused about what is happening and why Henry suddenly needs to leave. I believe Henry would tell them that they are being attacked by monsters because the monsters realize their plan to merge the 2 worlds and are trying to stop them. This is why Henry must go and defeat the monsters, and he would make the children promise to stay calm and continue the process. Remember, Henry needs the children to be in equilibrium, because sudden emotional fluctuations could disturb the wormhole. This is why he spent all this time earning the children's trust, exactly for this purpose. To make them trust him and do everything he says. The children would listen to Henry with the exception of Holly and Derek. I believe Derek would be the MVP here, and would use dipshit Derek to stop the other kids from concentrating, which would disturb the flow of energy and the equilibrium within the house. Meanwhile, Eleven would arrive at the lab, submerged in the tank, and right at the moment Vecna is about to kill one of the main characters, she would stop him. The way I see this part of the story, with Eleven and Kaylee fighting Vecna within his mind, is like this. Max would guide Eleven through the memories, and they would arrive at the memory of young Henry opening the briefcase. We would see the truth about this, the truth about Henry's memories, and we would realize that he is just a pawn used by the Mind Flayer. We would see how, after opening the briefcase, Henry was transported into the Abyss, where he was possessed by the Mind Flayer. The version that returned would be the flayed version of him, but the real Henry would still be trapped there. We would also see a detailed memory of Henry during his college years and meet Patty, Henry's girlfriend. We would see all the events that happened before Henry was taken by Brenner as a test subject. We would see him arriving at college, befriending Patty, and agreeing to join her in the play. We would also see the night in the attic when Patty asked Henry to track her mother. While doing so, the Mind Flayer took control and almost killed Patty's father. But when Patty told Henry she loved him, he regained control. I won't go into too much depth here because I've explained this in the last 5 videos I made, and if you're watching theory videos about the finale episode, you most likely already know about the play and what it represents. This scene with Eleven seeing the deepest memories of Henry would resemble the scenes where Eleven saw the deepest memories of Billy. Billy was the foreshadowing for Henry, both of them being flayed, both of them working for the Mind Flayer, except that Henry is basically Billy on steroids, with telekinetic powers. While all of this is happening, I think the military and Dr. K would arrive at the radio station center and capture Max. Because of this, Max might be forced to leave Henry's mind, which would leave Eleven and Kali all alone there, without a guide, wandering blindly through the rest of the memories. Because of this, I believe Henry would regain control and kick the girls out of his mind. He would return to his physical self in the abyss, and this would be one of the climaxes of the finale episode. Maybe Henry would also turn Will against his friends. He could take control of Will while he is connected to the hive mind. But Eleven wouldn't give up so easily, and she and Kaylee would try again. And just as Vecna is ready to stop and kill them, he would suddenly freeze in fear. Kaylee would show him a vision of that cave, and his fear would paralyze him. This would give our heroes time to rescue all the children and escape to the Upside Down. And here's the real climax of the finale episode. After all the children are rescued and the Mind Flayer particles are released from them, we would see the true villain of Stranger Things make his move. Vecna is paralyzed by fear, so the Mind Flayer must act, and his main body is the place where Vecna was holding the children. If we look closely, we can see that the structure Vecna is connected to is pulsing. It almost looks like a heart. A lot of people notice that the weird place where the children are taken looks like a spider turned on its back, and the Mind Flayer has always been represented as a spider. So yes, I believe this is his real body, and we would see it come to life in the finale episode. This is also the giant creature with a gaping mouth that Nancy saw in the vision Vecna showed her. The background where the children are being held truly resembles a giant mouth. The teeth are the clearest clue. So I believe that after the children are rescued, the Mind Flayer's real body would come to life. This is the Thessalhydra. This is the real villain of Stranger Things, and the Mind Flayer would start chasing them. The biggest plot twist would be the fact that they are saved from the Mind Flayer by Henry. As much as I hate this narrative, at the moment it's the only one that makes sense to me. This would mirror Season 3 perfectly. We have a flayed character who sacrifices himself to save the others. In Season 3 it was Billy. This time, it's Henry. I believe that while Eleven was inside Henry's memories, she reminded him that he is still human. And with the power of love, Henry would be able to overthrow the Mind Flayer's control and help them escape. This is also a reference to the ending of A Wrinkle in Time. In the movie, the power of love is what ultimately overthrows evil, and young Charles Wallace regains control. Evil is destroyed by light. This is exactly what would happen in Stranger Things as well. Max told us that Henry is still human, that he can be hurt, and that he is suffering. Noah said in an interview that Vecna is the most misunderstood villain, and Millie gave him that look like, be careful what you're going to say next. The Duffer Brothers also told us that the finale would focus on the relationship between Henry and the Mind Flayer, and this is exactly what that relationship is. It's not a partnership where both have the same goal. It's a victim and tormentor relationship, with Henry being the victim and doing everything the tormentor forces him to do. I believe something more or less like this would happen. After these events are over, they would return to the Upside Down, and something would go wrong with the bomb. The one who would volunteer to go and fix the problem would be Steve. This would also be foreshadowed in the first episode of Volume 1, in the scene where they need to climb to the top of the radio tower. Nancy says, "Seems kind of dangerous," and Steve replies, "AKA a job for good old Steve Harrington." While Steve is at the lab with Eleven, Kaylee, and Hopper, maybe the military would arrive there as well, or something else would go wrong. The result would be that Hopper manages to return to the real world, but the explosion is triggered, making it seem like Steve, Eleven, and Kaylee died in the blast. However, this would only be an illusion created by Kaylee to make Dr. K believe that she and Eleven died in the Upside Down. This is also what I think the Duffer Brothers meant with that Jimmy Fallon scene where the Steve miniature falls down. It represents Steve having a fake-out death, but eventually being fine. The video would end with an epilogue taking place in the summer. The boys would graduate from high school, and we would get a scene with Hopper and Mike. Mike would be sad, believing that Eleven died, but Hopper would tell him that she's alive and show him a picture of Eleven with 3 waterfalls. Maybe Mike would go and see her. After the illusion of the explosion and the Upside Down, Eleven, Kaylee, and Steve would manage to escape just a few minutes before the real explosion takes place. Eleven and Kaylee would be helped by Dr. Owens, who would take them to an isolated place where the military couldn't reach them. Maybe Steve would be there as well, and this is how his dream would finally come true. Driving around the country with 6 little nuggets. In general terms, this is what I believe we would see in the final episode. I am really curious to see how the Duffer Brothers will end the story, and I truly believe we will get the happy ending we all deserve. Let me know your opinion in the comments, and if you have any theories, feel free to share them with everyone else.